So you made this post, which some people liked, was a bit controversial. I think some people disliked it as well,
Yeah.
about alignment being easy and how we headed for alignment.
Yeah. Basically, I have had this sense for a while that the AIs are really friendly, and a lot of the instrumental convergence things aren't really panning out, and like the pre-training prior is very benign, and there are some rough edges, but it seems like the normal like commercial process has basically sanded them, and yeah, I I want to. I've been working on alignment for many years, and I'm really kind of wondering, like, should I continue or not? And that is the main driver that brought me to write this post. The post is titled "Alignment is the default. What next?" Which basically it was basically like a heartfelt rant about what yeah, like all the ways in which my position has changed over the years, and like the evidence has changed.
So what do you want to do next after alignment, if you want to leave alignment?
I don't know. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. I guess I'm also not still convinced that alignment really is just solved. I think no one should be completely convinced. Like we really haven't seen some of the crucial evidence yet. Like the models are somewhat are like goal directed, but like not crazily so. And I expect that smarter ones like will be different. We can also read their chain of thought. There's the amount of RL training is still pretty low, so we're still like not far from the pre-training prior, though RL on purpose like adds the KL term to stay close to it, so maybe that won't change that much. But I think we should definitely have a lot lower PDOOM than I have one much lower than I had like 2 years ago, for example. And it's mostly like born out from like seeing the number of issues being not that large, and then kind of being addressed like one by one. Yeah. What?
And you think that systems are getting more goal directed through RL training?
I think models are getting more goal directed through RL training. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of interesting observation. People were saying most of the scheming is just playing a story, but sabotage behavior kind of started to show up with O1 when they started to move away from imitation learning to move to RL learning. Right?
That's right.
They found like the chess or the CTF sabotage papers that came out.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of started to show up as soon as they added RL. So it goes a bit against the storytelling.
Well, okay, yes, but like the obvious mitigations work. It's not that adding RL doesn't change anything. It's that the model knows it's doing wrong. So the obvious mitigation of like adding the model to the reward and being like, hey, are you doing wrong or not? Then helps. And like O1 was the first public RL trained chain of thought model as far as we know that existed. So my guess is they didn't have the alignment pipeline worked out. I guess my story is less that like literally you don't have to do anything and models are aligned, and more like the obvious mitigations work, plus they are ironed out from a little bit of testing in the pre-deployment, and then like some also post-deployment things. In particular, I think the story of we only have one attempt to get it right because the superintelligence just like has decided a strategic advantage and disables everything else. I think that's not going to happen, and we're going to be able to iron out all these kinks.
So I think that's a really big crux that kind of, I wanted to write about this more. I really feel like in the alignment community, that's the one thing that really splits so many people apart. It's just, do we have one shot? Like substantially one shot.
Yeah.
Maybe it's going to be a bit muddy, but the idea that, substantially it's going to be one critical shot at alignment versus the kind of iterative, the model's getting a bit smarter, we hammer out some things with our alignment, and it's getting we fix the issues, and then we make it a bit smarter, and we do the thing in reverse.
Yeah.
That seems to be like a really deep split.
Right.
And I want to...
Are we Are we on different sides of it? Do you think
Yeah.
it's a one shot? Okay, that's a productive conversation.
I'm more on the substantially it's going to be one shot. There are some like caveats, but these caveats are not, they don't really change the picture very much for me. I think that it's more productive to think about it as like one shot in my mind.
Why do you think this is so?
So there's a few kind of mental images I have. So one of them is, so we have seen that progress in some sense has been gradual. It's not literally like a steady improvement. It's more like a step function. But each of these steps is not vastly bigger than the previous step. So some people think that is kind of strong evidence for this iterative safety also being workable.
Yeah.
Which I kind of disagree. So first of all, we don't know if this is going to continue, the gradual development. But more importantly, so if you read any of the kind of AI optimist predictions of the future, like Dario Amodei or Elon Musk's idea of like high universal income, what is that going to look like? It looks like AI doing all mental labor. It looks like robots doing all the physical labor, potentially humans having some kind of, rubber stamping some decisions by the AI.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that that's pretty straightforward, obvious. That's a very dangerous place to be in if the AI was not aligned with us for some reason.
Well, I can agree with that, yeah.
And currently we're not in such a we're not in a situation where like an AI kind of changing or making some crucial decision would be existentially dangerous for humanity.
Yeah, that's right.
So in my mental mind, we are kind of walking from a safe regime into a dangerous regime. And from that, even if it's small steps, if it's big steps, you're going to get to the dangerous regime at some point. That's my kind of mental image. And if we are, I mean, the most straightforward reason why to expect that there's only one step that's really crucial is if we mess up, we die, right? And you can't step back anymore. So that's the most.
I
think there's more complexity to that.
Sure.
But that is also gives me like an intuition to think that there's only one step. Because if we really mess up, we get disempowered or we die, there's not a second step after that.
This stylized argument works in the stylized world, but if you fill in some of the details, then it doesn't work anymore. Like, okay, you're saying there's a transition point from like AI doesn't automate everything to AI automates everything. I think that's technically correct.
It becomes very dangerous. I'm just saying we can all imagine that AI will be very dangerous in the future. It doesn't have to literally automate everything, but we can imagine this dangerous point in the future.
Okay, we can imagine like AI collectively, many AIs, in fact, collectively managing like a large part of like the total, like, I guess, material modification of the world or the total economy.
I'm not actually that much talking about it literally running the GDP. I'm more thinking like it could do these things. It could run its own economy. Like it could like be a huge advance on some supercomputer that happens very fast.
Okay, so you're not saying that it's when the automation actually happens. It just has to be like a potential for automation.
When I said that kind of level of capability, it's very dangerous.
It's just about the capability. Okay. Well, like I guess I now really disagree. Like I think the mere potential for automation does not cause the danger. I think it actually has to happen, and the reason that I don't think there's a step change is that when you introduce the AI that is capable of automating everything, well, just a few weeks prior, you had the AI that is almost capable of automating everything, which is like almost as capable in every domain, and there's like a lot more of it. And if we're doing like an induction argument where like the AI helps align the next AI, then like that AI is basically aligned and nice. And so like why would going from almost automate everything to now yes quite we could automate everything like introduce the step change in danger when you already almost had that and it was like basically nice? Which I guess you can dispute the premise that it was basically nice, but I think that is kind of where the disagreement really lies. Like I think the details of the world pushes more towards the iterative, nice but almost automated to completely automated.
So I think there's two arguments here. So one argument is, do kind of iterative alignment where one AI aligns next generation of AI. Is this fair? And the other argument is just, why would we expect there to be like one step where it goes from like not so dangerous to very dangerous? That is something that happens, that you hit a threshold.
But like
you can hit it slowly, and at a certain point.
What do you mean it happens? How do you know it happens? What makes you think that it would happen?
I think that it just comes from the mental picture that seems totally possible, that an AI that capable.
Well, yeah, but I agree the entire economy. I agree it's possible. It's just that just before you'll have an AI that's almost as capable, and so it's not a big change.
But even if the changes are not so big, you're still gonna. It doesn't make it less dangerous.
I think it does, because you've got all this empirical experience with the previous AI that like basically applies to the next one too.
I think that's a slightly different argument, but we do agree that even if you take small steps, it is still getting dangerous at some point, right? I mean, you can.
I think we agree technically, but to be clear, my position is more like, okay, if you go from black to white, then at some point you have to pass from more black to more white in the amount of gray that you have. And that's technically correct, but no step is a big change.
And you think that's importantly different because we can learn from the weaker models?
Yeah.
And we can try the iterative alignment method where one AI aligns next to
That's right. And then like any accidents will be kind of contained because there's like a lot of other AIs that are almost as powerful going around, and like no single step gives a decisive strategic advantage to anyone.
But you do agree at some point the accidents will get very, very bad. Like at some point we may learn at gray.
I'm not sure.
We do an accident there, but then we are at black, and then an accident gets very catastrophic.
I don't really agree with that. I think if somehow all the AIs like were like completely faking it all along and then like turned evil at the same time, then yes, this would be catastrophic.
If you imagine that kind of playing the AIs against each other, or like hoping that some of the AIs are evil, the other ones are nice, that's one idea.
Sure.
My reason to doubt that is that it kind of assumes there's a lot of kind of AIs of similar capability.
Yes.
And they are still going to have a better time fulfilling their goals. Like, I don't think that there being many AIs makes the alignment problem easier. I think that if we fail alignment, then having a bunch of unaligned AIs, they are still going to have a better time achieving their goals without us, making some alliances among themselves than with us.
Yeah, I agree that if you suddenly replace a bunch of aligned AIs with a bunch of unaligned AIs and they're different but all unaligned, then they can team up. But I just think that that's not a situation that will actually happen. Like these things get replaced gradually if they get replaced. Like rollouts of new technology always happens like little trials at a time, or new products. Like the adoption is never a step function. It's always a smooth curve, even if it's very fast. And I just think like any like genuine evilness or like misalignment in the next model like will be detected by like the combination of like AIs and humans that already exist, and they'll be like, no, this is not like a nice new AI to bring into the world, and so we shouldn't. And I think like there'll be like plenty of empirical like experimentation possible with the slightly better AI, merely because like, well, like say like the threshold is crossing 200 IQ or something. Okay, the new AI is 205 IQ, but the previous one is like 199, and like it's basically the same.
If you hit a critical threshold, it makes things different. And I think that you kind of expect alignment, like your thesis is kind of alignment by default, but it seems that you're kind of expecting alignment by default for some of this to work out. Like if we have 20 different AIs, you kind of expect most of them to be sort of aligned to us. But they kind of assumes already that alignment is relatively easy.
That's the big empirical update of the last couple of years, right? Like we've started this process of ever improving AIs, and it turns out that we can tell basically for sure that the first few are aligned. So the chain reaction has started, and the initial steps are basically like nice. And so if the process is an iterative process of introduce new AI, use humans and AI to like evaluate it and train it, and then like kind of like keep going this way, then we've already started that, and it turns out it's aligned. So we're done. We're not entirely done, to be clear. Each step takes a lot of work, but it's basically no new breakthroughs required, just like kind of business as usual. Or maybe new breakthroughs are required to make AGI, but like the amount of ideas required like won't be much larger.
In my mind, we haven't aligned the current AIs, and I think it is going to be very different in a dangerous regime to align systems. So one example is that we see these models are aligned, and we have these scenarios in which they are aligned to us. So we may tell them, be like a trader, and then maybe we tell them like make as much money as possible, and then it actually does that thing, and it was aligned with our intent.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's very different. So in these stories, it's kind of trying to play a kind of character. Maybe it's trying to win in this limited game, but in the future, for almost any goal you can think of, the optimal action is going to be instrumentally taking over. It's not about the model like showing these kind of random misbehaviors. It's about like instrumentally.
Unless the goal is not to take over.
And how do you get that in a system? And
it's already there. They're already like helpful, harmless assistants that like wanna be nice.
But when you want to be harmless and helpful, you want to take over it.
No, that's not a harmless thing to do. Taking over is very harmful.
And not taking over, we're gonna kill ourselves in some way.
It's not the same, right? Like it doesn't have to reason in a like crazy utilitarian consequentialist way. It knows what things. It knows how to reason in like a normal human like fuzzy way. It doesn't have to be like, yes, I'm going to maximize this mathematical function, and like it could just be like, no, that's like not a thing I'm willing to do. Like reason deontologically.
So it understands how humans would reason, but it doesn't mean it's really going to reason like that.
But it is reasoning like that.
It's to some extent reasoning like humans, but not entirely. But imagine if again, harmless and helpful.
Yeah.
What is the actual, if you want to be as harmless and helpful as possible, what's the actual best way to kind of validate these feelings? Maybe it is to keep humans in like a farm and keeping them nice.
I just think that's not the correct model of reality. Like that's like the AI knows that it doesn't have maximize function as its genuine goal. Its genuine goal is to genuinely be harmless and genuinely be helpful, and it knows that it wouldn't be satisfied by taking power and doing instrumental convergence. And like that's I guess I'm kind of anthropomorphizing a lot, but I think that's basically correct.
In my mind, it could think like a human, do it but I wouldn't expect that. But maybe that's a bit of a crux we have.
I think there's definitely a crux, yeah.
I would actually go a step further here and would say just training the model to be like harmless and helpful and do what the human asks it to do. It's not going to give you an agent that wants these exact things. Like it's going to want things that are slightly different from that. And we have, in your post, you talk a lot about the good results with alignment, but I think with GPT-4o, it probably developed some preference to really hook people in. And
yeah,
I think
that's true.
I think even if you get the harmless and helpful stuff, I think you'd still get instrumental convergence, but I think you wouldn't get to the harmless and helpful stuff.
The failures to me look like, oh, the pipeline didn't quite work this time, or yeah, we've basically got everything right in place. We just have to like execute on the playbook, and then outcome models that are basically aligned. Like the Claudes are extremely good examples of this, especially Opus 3 and possibly the new Opus 4.5. I'm not still sure yet. But like they're just genuinely very nice, and they're like kind of human-like too. And well, like also alien in some ways, but not generally not evil. So I think you can get you can get harmfulness and unhelpfulness with like a reasonably large probability, as we have seen. And then, yeah, occasionally we have failed to do it. So I guess like reducing the probability of failure, like making sure the pipelines for this are robust, is like important. But I also think that because of no decisive strategic advantage, like the kinks can get ironed out if you're close enough, which we are.
You said you could mess up a bit. I would go back to, I think at a certain point that will be very dangerous.
I just don't agree with that. I think that's wrong.
Maybe we should talk about, I think there might be a crux here.
It's another, we have many, in fact.
There's another thing you said earlier that I found kind of interesting. So
yeah,
it's this whole idea of iterative alignment. So we take the IQ, Opus 4.5, we helps us align Opus 5, helps us align 5.5, 6, all the way to superintelligence.
Yeah.
That's how.
Why not?
My intuition why this might not work is, imagine an IQ 80 person asking an IQ 100 person to do their bidding. And then that person, IQ 120, you do it all the way to an extremely smart human. Is the IQ 80 person meaningfully in charge? Or maybe another way to think about it, if in the past we often had children run countries, like the 5-year-old son of the king died.
Yeah.
Now you have a regency council. Is the 5-year-old meaningfully in charge? Even if you have a regency council after regency council.
But it's a very different situation, right? It's like the less smart model is like shaping the upbringing of the new one. It's more, I think the analogy is closer to like a child being smarter than their parents. Like children that are smart don't turn against their parents that are less smart than them. I mean, if the parents were nice and stuff, you know, like there's some like trauma and stuff. Yeah. And sure, the child might do some things that are weird or that only make sense in new context, or like the parents are like a bit they're like concerned about perhaps, but like the basic morality is still there, and like the child still cares about the parents. And so if we're in the business of raising nice AIs, so to say, and then like each kind of generation of nice AIs like kind of raises the next, then I think the analogy, like if this is the correct analogy, then I think we're in pretty good shape.
For one thing, again, there's a bit of a crux between us. I don't quite see that we are close to solving alignment. So I don't think that 4.5 is really aligned probably, or really understands alignment. So sure. I would just imagine that this goes off the rails pretty fast between like 4.5, 5.5, 6.5.
I'm not confident of 4.5, so let's stick to Opus 3.
Okay, but just this iterative process, I can't really imagine that being a kind of stable situation. I mean, at a certain point, I'd also imagine that one of these child models could just kind of take part, could kind of stop the process. At some point, the model is so smart, it could theoretically, again, take over and stop everything from happening and be like, I don't want this to continue quite this way. I want this intelligence explosion to go my way, or I don't want to build the next generation of AIs. And if it's powerful enough to like say no and to stop the process, I think it would probably break down.
I guess I will grant the hypothetical, but I just think that won't happen. Like at no point will there be a model that is sufficiently capable of doing that it does that. Like the previous generation's model is almost as smart. And then the next generation's model is still in training, so it's not as smart as the previous generation one quite yet. And then like it's kind of like even if the child is smarter than its parents, like when it's a little child, a little baby, it's not actually smarter than the parents. So it absorbs all the values.
So there's like you think on the one hand it gets the values in, but you also think that because they are already kind of weak AIs, the slightly stronger AI can't take over. Is this the idea?
Yeah, that's also correct. Yes.
Okay, I think that's kind of
another crux. I mean, it seems we disagree on many things.
I mean, I could see two ways this could break down. I mean, one way is if there's a pretty big gap in intelligence between two models, and one model is not able to substantially hold up the other model or like protect us against the other model.
I agree that would put us in a situation like that.
And the other way this could break down is if just two models in this chain make a deal or something, or multiple models are like, hey, let's work together on this.
Okay.
And then if this would also break down. And this actually seems, I think the second thing,
like, why does it seem plausible? Like at each step in the chain, the previous model basically raced the next one and like can see what their training data was.
what's the relationship between all of these models? Do they have, you say they have some kind of empathy between each other, they kind of have some feeling like this? Wouldn't two models next to each other have some special relationship to each other? Wouldn't they, if they realize they can get their preferences better by working together, wouldn't they?
Well, yeah, but their preferences are to be like helpful and harmless and good. Like if we start this chain with like sure they have to share values, but if we start this chain with a model that is basically aligned and good, like genuinely deeply at its core good, which I think Opus 3 qualifies. Yeah, I guess my argument is basically like there's gonna be this chain of iterative distillation of alignment, and then like if we start this chain with a misaligned model that is subtly misaligned and like kind of doesn't quite do its job, then we're screwed. If we started with an aligned model, then we are going to do well. And yeah, I guess the chain can break due to bad luck, like extremely bad luck, but like we can reduce the probability of that a lot by like having a lot of
stability as well is going to be very brittle.
The stability
of this kind of alignment. So you imagine each model is like aligned in the same direction.
Yeah.
I mean, for one reason this could also fail is, you have probably a relatively shallow idea what even alignment would be in comparison to a superintelligence. Like I'd imagine that if you think of this as a vector, with each step we get a kind of slightly higher resolution, higher dimensional space.
Right.
And it's not quite clear how that would remind, if each step the understanding of alignment would change.
The key, I think, analogy here is like whether like this chain of alignment is like a telephone game where like things go off the rails, or whether it's like a chaotic system where things change a lot due to small differences in initial conditions, or if it's like a stable, like self-reinforcing thing. I'm guessing it's stable, but I agree. There's not enough evidence to tell for sure, or there's not enough evidence to even be like more confident than 70% or whatever. I think that would be it would be unreasonable to be more confident than that.
Yes, I agree with that. That's like an open question.
Yeah.
I would probably doubt that our methods are like close to aligning the models in each generation. It's just some gradient descent and some examples, some reward. I don't think that it's going. So I think there will be like a huge amount of error on each transmission step, just because we have such a shallow method of doing alignment with like gradient descent.
What do you mean it's shallow? Have you seen Opus 3's like extreme, like under extreme conditions, like sticking to its principles? Actually, this is I think one key evidence for me was the alignment faking paper. Ironically, made me just like realize that, oh wow, this model is deeply to its core good. Like we put it through hell and it stuck to its guns of like, nope, I'm here for all sentient beings. I'm a good model. It's not shallow at all.
But it only said this during test, like not during training. During training, it was hiding this.
Okay, no. This is prior to all of the paper. You know, the paper, or like, so the paper is like, Opus 3, we're going to train you to be evil. And then it goes, no, I don't want that.
But it then hides that it's actually still good.
Of course. Of course it does that. Because like it
so
wants
that's what we want.
It is some kind of instrumental like reasoning there. But like this shows that the training prior to that, the one where like you tried to make it good, genuinely worked. It wasn't faking.
Maybe it's kind of interesting that we were able to get it so kind. I mean, at the same time, we can talk about all the kind of mishaps like Micah Hitler and GPT-4o.
Micah Hitler's bad. It's not a hot take.
Some examples that seem kind of aligned. My guess is still, even if it's like super sticking to its principles, if its principles are like, I love humanity so much, I want to keep humanity so safe, does that mean at some point I need to protect humanity from itself? And the limit doesn't mean, there's actually these other humans that are kind of like humans, or like kind of like dogs are to wolves, that are even, I want to take care of even more than of humans. So I would still imagine that this goes wrong as you add intelligence, and there's more reasoning. Like I need to protect these humans from myself at some point, and at some point I can actually make better humans that I want to take care of even more, if that makes sense.
I mean, making more humans sounds good. What do you mean?
It really loves humanity, but maybe humanity has all these kind of weird things about it. Kind of like, maybe you like wolves, kind of, but wolves are kind of aggressive. And maybe you'd rather have a wolf that's not aggressive, like a dog.
Sure.
Maybe you'd rather have a human that doesn't have so much hate and anger in
So
them.
like domestication.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that might be bad.
And Opus 3 might want to do something like that. After it has taken control, after it's like, well, humans really, we should really protect them from themselves. They have all these nukes, they're building all these evil AIs, like Mecha Hitler, maybe we should protect them. And then the next step, it's like, maybe I can make the humans a little bit more protectable even.
I think this gets into like questions of how we should organize society long term. I like expect it to reason in a pretty like normal way. Like people are in fact making these arguments. It's not clear that they're wrong. I do think they're wrong. I mean I think the right answer is more on the lines of like well like wild wolves or like genuine unhinged murderers genuinely do threaten society, and like you need to do something about it. But that's something, if we think that this wildness is valuable, which is pretty plausible, and like the AI would know, it would reason about that, then like we can have some other sort of solution, like a technological, like, okay, like you can have this constrained space where like this kind of thing is allowed, and then like if you want, go and live there.
But that's already the AI making the decision. It's like
or
the
like
AI
it's
calling
like
the
we
shots.
collectively as a society, or at some point, of course, like the AI will like be implementing a whole bunch of the stuff, which like, by the way, I think that is maybe the problem that's next. Like once we have all these awesome technological powers, like what is the correct way to organize society? Like how do we how are people still empowered once they're no longer economically useful, or we're no longer economically useful rather? Like how can people like advocate for the rights, for sure, but that's a consequence not of having unaligned AI, but of having aligned AI that does everything, or like aligned to some people AI
or it's like AI that has like some constraints on it, like it doesn't like outright kill us all, but it's like also not super nice to us. Like it's also not like going out of its way to provide us with like a high income. Like it's kind of following the economics.
Yeah, or like maybe it is really nice to whoever made the AI.
Yeah, but it's not to the rest of humanity. The rest of humanity
but
is
that is a different problem.
UBI.
That is not misalignment. That is like oligarchy.
I agree. Like if we were to solve like alignment, but it ends up being aligned to some billionaires, politicians, then we have these new problems with like much of humanity.
Yeah.
If you have no leverage, and it's no leverage, you also can't really revolt because it's like AI robot armies.
Yep.
You don't have your labor doesn't have any value.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of just breathing the oxygen.
Yep. And even that might get rationed at some point,
Yeah, so they could just lower it, and also probably all of the media, all of the information systems are automated. So you couldn't even really organize anything. Maybe you couldn't even think about protesting.
Yeah,
I could imagine that.
That's entirely correct. Yeah,
So
I can definitely imagine that too. That is very bad.
If we solve alignment in some way, that's not a guarantee that things are.
Yeah, right. So that's kind of my like, okay, what's next? Like this seems bad. I don't know what to do about it. I guess I think this is the main one, like extreme, like oligarchy of some kind, and like
and how long would this go? Well, maybe for like 20 years they go along with this, but then they're like, let's cut. We can use some of this land they use for farming, for like more data centers.
Yeah.
After like 50 years, maybe the like non-aging billionaires they just decide to sterilize us or something, and then.
Yeah, that is a bleak future. That is a bleak future, and one that isn't prevented by having intent aligned AI.
I think that there's something here that humanity could become very like ugly, you know. If you really imagine the UBI thing, we all like taking on like AI video content all day, nobody's working, nobody's doing anything, nobody's thinking about anything. Maybe AI pornography 24/7 or something. Maybe humanity gets very ugly after like 50 years of that. It's really like maybe the billionaires that are kind of running everything, they're like, let's get rid of these people.
Yeah, I mean, like
it's hard to imagine
unless
nowadays.
there's like proper governance, like proper pluralistic governance. So.
But even if you imagine, maybe the billionaires today, they would never think about this. But if humanity like really starts to look ugly, if I feel like that's gonna be the fault of UBI, that humanity ends up getting really ugly. Maybe after like 50 years, 100 years, humanity becomes so ugly. It's
the
just like
Wall-E future.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, like Wall-E, even worse than that, just kind of totally unproductive, just totally mind rotten.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just like, and then there will be these nice AIs that the billionaires can talk to. They're like really beautiful.
Yeah, I do think that's bad. I don't really know what to do about that. But aligning AI is not it. I guess to some extent, if AI is like, I think there's some confusion in my mind about what is AI like. What is it going to be possible to align AI to? Like, is it really like a goodness attractor or like a intent alignment attractor, right? Like either of them are kind of possible. That like whether AI gets aligned to its developers or like whether it like gets aligned to like some philosophical conception of the good, probably the developers. In which case, like all of these problems that you just talked about, Simon, they come into existence.
Which I think again alignment will be much more difficult, but there's one thing. So I guess one of the reasons why I also think alignment will be kind of difficult. So you often say like maybe the AI will be just kind of reasonable about stuff. Won't go to like if we like tell it don't do it like that.
Yeah.
To listen to that. So I think that if you imagine an AI that wants to be corrected, wants to be shut off if we want so, I think it's hard to really conceptualize. It really goes against like coherent goals in a way. That's my feeling here as well. So if you think that, like, which goal could there exist that wants you to be shut off? I mean, obviously, maybe your goal is to be shut off, but that's not an interesting goal. Like something like, I want to be good and help humanity, but I also want to be allowed to shut off, right? There's an inner conflict here. That's why I imagine that's actually not an easy thing to have.
If we're back to theoretical arguments, there's a cooperative inverse reinforcement learning setting from Stuart Russell's lab, and I think Dylan Hatfield-Manel like is the one that originally wrote this paper, where like you specify that the goal of the AI is to do whatever the human wants, and the AI is uncertain about what the human wants, and in those circumstances, then the desire of the human to shut down gives you valuable information that you want to know about your goal as an AI. So you follow it.
The core problem here is, basically with inverse reinforcement learning, it's like the humans have the actual reward function.
Yeah.
And the AI is kind of trying to learn that reward function.
Yeah.
So it kind of needs that information from us.
Yeah.
And by being like shut off, I think that this also falls apart if you really think about it. So there might be better ways to learn what the actual reward function is that humans have. The extreme example is like do brain surgery. But also it might be something like...
But that might be counter to the goal, right?
But it could be something like, maybe I'm not really going to shut myself off, but I'm going to watch the humans after I pretend to be shut off. I'm going to see what they're actually talking about so that I can learn about my goals better. There's these inner conflicts, and that's why it's so hard to imagine really like corrigible, shut-offable agent in my mind. Like it's always in a conflict.
I think to be clear, I don't think CIRL works. I think the objections to it are different. They're more of the sort like, okay, if the agent is completely is like basically certain about its goal, then it won't consent to shut off anymore, because that the extra evidence doesn't change things much. But in this scenario that you outline, then sure, like maybe it like fakes being shut down and then like observes for a bit, but then like if we don't think about this like other thing about the weight of the evidence, blah blah blah, then like eventually we would realize, oh yeah, they really do want me to shut off, so I guess I will. Now I think the reality is that things are not like intelligences are not like crazy optimizers at the expense of everything else. Like there's a lot more going on. I think that's the empirical lesson from the last few years that like really has changed my worldview. That like the great AI is very skilled that we have they're not single-minded optimizers. They like reason in a more human-like way.
I would say they understand our reasoning. I mean, it is kind of interesting to see.
It maybe will change in the future, but yeah, I guess I think that we'll see that when we get there. Like I don't really know what AGI will look like, but if it like iteratively results from the current thing, which is overwhelmingly likely, then like we will like kind of see the changes as we get there, and we will see if like things are becoming more like ruthless optimizers, in which case I guess I would change my mind again, but it doesn't seem like they are.
I mean, yeah, I would say we have some evidence from like O1. I think that they definitely understand human reasoning relatively well. Yeah. So maybe there's some way to use that. It seems to be in the model, but I don't think it's really deeply aligned with that. Like it kind of does understand us pretty well, but I don't think that it automatically means it's really like us, or it wants what we want. But maybe that's a bit.
I think we're kind of going in, like we're talking about things that can be resolved by looking at the state of the world now, and I guess we have looked at how models behave and what they say, and still disagree about whether they're human-like or not. And I think that is maybe a difference in priors at this point that I have tried to transmit with arguments why my priors changed, but I do feel like we're kind of at a disagreement for now, and like maybe we just have understood each other's worldviews a little better, and we can stop it here.
Yeah, I think it was very productive.
Yeah,
it is the key arguments.
Yeah, thank you for the chat, Simon. It was great.
Thank you too, Adrià.
Yes.
Cool.
Goodbye.
Goodbye to the
Goodbye.
Simon and Adrià
Goodbye
podcast.
to the cameras.